two halves and two derby formations, wasn't it? On the back of that, they were better when that 4-2-3-1 was deployed and Patrick Adjivan came on. But that first half was pretty dire. It's probably the first time I've sat there and been really concerned about the way they were playing this season, given opposition and injuries and so on. But Chris, what were your kind of overall thoughts on that first half?
Wow, where do we start? Confusion. I was really confused when the team sheet was given to us an hour and 15 before the game, to be honest. Because although I was in the Radio Derby studio on Thursday, I thought there wouldn't be wholesale changes made, but I thought the obvious one, or the obvious two changes possibly, I'm talking Diaz and Adams, never happened. And then we played as if our backs were against the wall against a team who, let's be honest, have had a half decent start, but their form has wobbled somewhat recently. And we almost, the thing that really concerned me, Jack and Joe, was the pace of our game. The pace of our football was unbelievably slow to the point of where I was thinking we were in trouble within the first 5 minutes, that either communication wasn't coming across from the sideline onto the football pitch, or the tactical choices of our coaching staff were literally to play out a 0-0 till half time, and both didn't work.
Yeah, no, that is fair. Joe, what were your thoughts in summary on that first half? Similar sentiment, I imagine.
Yeah, I mean, football is usually a game of two halves, but I just felt that first half performance settled the game, to be honest, because going into that second half, Preston were happy to sit off the ball. They were happy to let us have possession. And we created chances, but ultimately, we just played into their hands in the first half because they're a team that are happy to get an early goal and then sit back. And to be fair to Preston, they were well structured, organised, defended really well. And fair play to John Eustace because he came out and said that he got the formation wrong. But it felt like the damage was done at half time, to be honest. And if it was 2-0 at half time or 2-0 early on in the second half, Pride Park would have been really toxic because that first half performance was probably one of the worst first half performances I saw since Swansea at home last season, and that wasn't great. Um, so I just think questions need to be asked because Preston are 19th in the average possession table. So they're not a team that have a lot of possession. However, we're 23rd in the possession table with 40.4%. So that just goes to show that in possession, we're lost for ideas. We're too slow at getting the ball out from the back and playing forward. And it just feels like we don't really have a style of play at the moment. I can't really say there's been a game this season where I think we've looked very good, to be honest. And it's concerning because we've spent money in the summer. I know we've got a lot of players that are coming back from injury. But as a supporter, we need to see progression on the pitch because the days of administration are gone and we've spent money this summer. And there's going to be pressure on John Eustace because we need to start seeing a decent style of football and we need to start seeing a philosophy. And at the moment, I just don't think we've seen that.
Yeah, Chris is nodding. Anything to add there, Chris?
No, I agree. I think also he's still not quite having every square peg in every square hole, Jack, is he? He's probably still got three round holes with square pegs, and I would say I was doing a list of players that ultimately will come into that starting 11 if we're talking about starting the game, and we'll come to that probably into the pod. And I've got four names written down now that aren't in that starting 11 that will be in there. The other thing I couldn't understand was fundamentally when you saw the team sheet, there was no element of who is going to grab this game by the scruff of the neck. Who's going to run with the ball? Who's going to give it Bobby Clark? Because Bobby Clark is going to be our out and out creator. You know, someone described him last night on Radio Derby as a young Mason Mount. Very, very good. I agree. I think they're very similar players. But what Mount had is he had lots of Bradley Johnson giving him the ball. He had a very good player in Richard Keogh feeding the ball from the back. He had Harry Wills. He had players that could give him the ball, allow him to create. We had nobody at all in that first half, did we, guys, that could run with the ball, pass the ball, and it was a big worry.
Yeah, Richard Keogh, there's a debate that we should save for a day when we need some interactions because we know how that still divides the fan base. But
Oops, sorry.
No, it's fine. Absolutely fine. I mean, let's just talk about that goal as well, because I mean, it's an absolutely divine strike. See what I did there?
Very good.
But you know, really watching it first and then watching it again back a few times, far too much space there for him to hit that, isn't there, Jack?
Yes, I was right in the south stand, so I had a perfect view of it. And as soon as he got into that little bit of space and nobody closed him down, I thought he's going to have a go here. And in fairness, it was a fantastic strike. There was nothing that Zetterstrom could have done. But defensively, we just don't seem very comfortable like we have done the last few seasons. And that goal on Saturday reminded me of, I think it was Coventry's fifth, when they had a shot from outside the box. Nobody went and closed him down, and they buried it into the bottom corner. And it's disappointing because last few seasons we've always been hard to beat. So even when we weren't taking chances or even when we weren't creating chances, we would always defend really well. But this season, I think that's just completely gone out the window. I think we've conceded about 12 goals in 6 games. If I'm correct in saying, yeah, 12 goals in 6 games. I mean, I'm not sure how many it was going into the first 6 games of last season, but that seems like quite a lot for me. And, there's questions need to be asked there. But then again, I come back to injured players, and I feel that when Langas is back, he'll fit straight back into that back four. We've still got Owen Beck as well, a very promising young left back from Liverpool's academy, who was at Blackburn last season. So I trust Eustace to turn it around. However, you can't defend the way we did and the way that we have done so far this season. We rode our luck against West Brom last week, and we've got some tough games coming up, and it needs to be something that is sorted out.
Yeah, no, absolutely, Joe. I think I'm just trying to do a little bit of maths here on the fly to find out how many we conceded in the first 6 league games last season, and we had 4 there. Sorry, this is live maths from me here. So that is 6. I believe it wasn't quite as many. If I can count, we didn't see 12 in the first 6. I think it was about 10. So yeah, a slight hike, and of course, many of those came on the opening night as well at Blackburn, ironically against John Eustace, didn't they? So
Yeah.
you could kind of put that down to opening night nerves, perhaps. Let's be a little bit more positive because things did change in the second half. John Eustace said that he felt they deserved to score and probably deserved to take a point from the game, which, I'll get your guys' thoughts on that in a minute. But I think it is absolutely fair to say that with the introduction of Patrick Agyemang, which was very much a tactical substitution, Callum Elder is fine, we are told, and that switch to a 4-2-3-1, Derby did improve, didn't they, Chris?
They did, and it was about the formation fundamentally. And obviously, Agyemang is a topic in his own right as a player, and it's great to have someone who comes on who literally there's not a lot of scouting out there to be done on him. All the videos on YouTube are chopped and don't really show him playing with the elements that we saw on Saturday, receiving the ball to feet, taking on players. And we'll come to Agyemang in the programme. I just thought that they must have had the biggest kick up the arse they've had since they've all came through the door, because it's okay a coach making a mistake, but he's not going to turn around and tell them that he's made a mistake, because at the end of the day, Jack, they're professional footballers, and in the first half, if they couldn't work out what was going on, they get paid a lot of money, not just to be physically adapt with what's in front of them, but mentally adapt with what's in front of them. And if it takes a coach at half time to rectify this and sort it out, there is a little bit of a problem there. And I thought that one of the big things that changed also was Travis was a bit more front foot. I thought in the first half he was far too deep. But Agyemang made a huge difference. He made, having 2 up front with Clark sitting behind made a huge difference. And I just think it was a big kick up the arse, to be honest, guys. Tactically, it did change, but they couldn't have got any worse, could they, Joe?
No, they couldn't. And going on to your point about the midfield, I don't believe that the midfield duo of Travis and Adams is quite working. I just think that they're 2 very similar players in terms of their ball-winning midfielders. Travis has got a little bit more technical ability than Adams, and he's a little bit better on the ball. But we needed somebody in midfield who could just pick the ball up with a little bit of strength, almost like a Harrison Armstrong type of player. It's quite ironic actually because that game against Preston we could have done with a Harrison Armstrong, but we had Ozo on the bench who didn't come on, which surprised me. But Ozo would have fitted in perfectly on Saturday because there was no cohesion between Adams and Travis. And I don't just want to pick them two out because I didn't think many players had a good game. But it was like we were so urgent for a goal that we needed something in midfield, a bit of technical ability. We needed better service to our forward players. And it wasn't just that, it was the decision making as well. For example, the chance where Brereton Diaz was, I think he was 3-on-2. He had Bobby Clark to his right, and I can't remember who it was. I think it might have been Colton Morris to his left, and he decided to take the shot on. So it was just little things like that. And I don't know if it's a lack of communication on the pitch. I don't know if there's a message that's not coming across quite well from the coaching staff, but it just doesn't feel like we're playing with any organisation. It doesn't feel like we're playing with a game plan. And that's something that needs addressing because, as I say, apart from Ipswich away, I can't say I've been very impressed by any of our performances so far. And the substitutions as well. I mean, bringing Salverson and Ward on in the 86th minute, is there any point? You're that far into the game that I can understand what he's doing. He wants to bring Joe Ward on because his deliveries are fantastic and Salverson's a big lad who's an aerial threat. But in the 86th minute, the game's died down, the atmosphere's gone. It didn't feel like we were going to score. We could have played until now, and I don't think we would have scored. So it felt like the game was gone at that point, and it was just frustrating because Preston are a decent team, but a team that have the 19th lowest possession in the league, and we just let them have the ball in the first half, and that ultimately determined the game. So yeah, there's a lot that needs to be worked on going into Wrexham on Saturday.
Yeah, I can tell you as well that possession stat has been inflated based on their performance on Saturday. Going into the match at Pride Park, Derby were bottom of that possession table with Preston in 22nd. So, they've climbed, 4 places with a decent possession share on Saturday afternoon. I mean, Chris, when you look at that balance, do you think that is something that has to change long term as well? I mean, the one thing I will give them a bit of credit for is that tactically, with that switch, we did seem to release a little bit down the right hand side rather than Max Johnston kind of constantly being done by Thierry Small. He did seem to get forward that little bit more, and they seem to be able to handle him a bit better with Travis and Clark and everyone kind of mucking in. But again, I think that's the point, isn't it? Really, all the strengths that we can pick out around a possession. In possession, there was very little.
And fundamentally, we talk about the players that still aren't in that starting 11, and the list I've got in front of me here, and Joe's already mentioned one. Langas can play football. Not only is a Rolls Royce of a defender, he can play football. He can pass, no problem at all. Beck is renowned last year as probably the best, most attacking young fullback in the Championship until he got injured. So Rhian Brewster, we know what he's capable of doing, and we talk about balance, and then all of a sudden you put these square pegs into the square holes, and we've got a different element.